Hi, I was told last week my little broadcast was a little bit ruined because of the wind. Well, I've now got a little gadget now. You can see down here a little microphone, and hopefully it will cut out the wind because it's a bit breezy here. What I've decided to do is redo what I did last week, probably change it slightly. The subject was creativity, and for me, if you're motivated enough to actually want to watch these things and want to know more about me, that is my middle name, and it sounds like an idle boast, but it's true. And if I tell you about a bit of my background, then you'll know where I'm coming from. So I've always been creative, and you get to a point where there's a time when you realise that what you have in terms of creativity is sort of different to others, and that the world that you live in and the things that you think and the things that you do are not normal. I thought it was normal, like in classrooms when I was like 8, 9, 10, to be able to slip into a dream world and actually daydream and actually enter a world during classes and actually interact with people in this world and then snap back into it. I thought that was normal, but apparently not. During my growing years, I used to do so much writing, poems, comedy poems, and stories. I used to give out stories at school and at university. I was writing songs, and I've sort of lost them all now, but that's another aspect of my creativity. It's a sense of, from what I've seen, that this creativity is a gift, and it can be expressed in many ways. And I know I'm a writer, I know I have natural talent at writing, but that even then it can be expressed in many different ways. And as I tell you my story, you'll sort of see all the different expressions. So where does one start? I suppose my first job, after leaving university, no idea what I wanted to do, and I sort of drifted into many sort of, I think it's right brain activities, because I had a logical mind. I did chemistry and maths, and so I drifted into systems analysis, management, consultancy, computing in particular, and no real creative expression there, but at least I was bringing the money in. Then came 1982, the home computer sort of explosion, and that was me. That was totally me. I bought a computer, Dragon 32, ended up running a software company, was doing stuff for about 8, 9 different computers, and had quite a lot of success. Creatively, I was writing games, I was designing them. One game, an adventure game called Pettigrew's Diary, became one reviewer actually classed it as the third best adventure at the time in the world, and it got to number 1 in the charts, 1983 Christmas charts. And the thing about writing that, when I wrote that, I knew that there was this sort of reservoir of creativity sort of hidden within me, and I was quite frightened about it. I didn't know what was there and what I would be unleashing, and I dipped into that when I created Pettigrew's Diary, and there were aspects of that game that were world firsts. Real-time clock was one thing, humour, and lots of parts of it, and I wrote other games that also were well received, but then that all went belly up, and I joined the real world, and I joined a company called Education Technology, and we're at the forefront of computer-based training and interactive video, and they employed me because they knew I had a design games background, and basically I went amok. That's the right word. They allowed me to do stuff. I mean, I came in as a programmer, but I ended up as a designer, working on a big project for Philips in Holland, and the stuff that I designed there ended up in the textbook because I was creating stuff that no one else had thought of. I was working in an environment that was very linear. Windows wasn't invented yet. It was using what we call MS-DOS. Everything was A to Z in a very sort of straightforward way. Even things like menus were unheard of. Well, I used a menu for the first time that industry had seen it, and that got great acclaim. And yet, when we think back, well, what is the menu? It's straightforward. But because there wasn't a Windows at the time, it wasn't an obvious object or sort of style to use on the screen, because linear programming didn't really lend itself to it. Well, the other thing I did is I actually created, during an educational instructive video for mechanical engineering, and this was for Philips as well. I created a Windows environment because it just seemed natural, and by that I mean, I was developing points, educational points, and then I just summarised them onto an object on the screen at a time where you didn't have objects on the screen, because now that's what Windows is. It's called object orientated programming, and that didn't exist, but I was the first, and that was what was written up in the handbook, and also an interactive glossary I created. So I did so many creative things. This is all before, well, in fact, it was more or less before I was a believer, and then I became a believer in 86, and I basically said to the Lord, I'm going to devote my life to you, creatively, and I've done the best I can. There have been blips. In the early days, I was trying lots of different things. I was pushing in many directions. I created a board game that got the interest of Waddingtons, and they actually said it was too ahead of its time. It was called My Granny's Big Toe, and I still have a copy of it. Someone created the pieces for it, and it's very playable, but it was ahead of its time. Other things I did, I wrote short stories, I wrote poems, I wrote tracts. I wrote a computer game called Valentine, which was the first computer game of its kind in the Christian world, and in it flopped. I mean, I spent a lot of money developing it and showing it off at exhibitions, and it got nowhere because no one understood computers, spreadsheets, databases. So anyway, running out of time. I think this is part one. So part one of my creative journey, the early years. So tune in next week, and even more exciting things I'll be telling you about. I hope you will still be with me, and I hope this hasn't been ruined by the wind. So see you then.